It's Curt Midkiff, and I'm chilling with my main man Taj right here on People Street, the place to be.
Starlight, California skyline. Enjoy the ride. Enjoy the ride.
Everybody, what's up? What's up? Welcome to this episode of People Street. I have a very illustrious guest with us today, Mr. Curt Midkiff, CEO, SMOGO Media, a member of the illustrious and legendary Olympic class of Morehouse College. Curt, what it do?
What's up, man? It's so good to catch up with you, man. Man, it takes me back in the day just talking to you, bro.
It does, man. I'm sorry. All right. So Curt, man, what you been up to, man? Can you tell us, man, who is Curt Midkiff, man?
Man, it's the same kid from Seattle who you met back in the day. Just love people, man. Just been able to have a really amazing journey, Morehouse and post Morehouse. We'll talk about it, I'm sure. And now now Curt Midkiff is really the entrepreneur, the husband, and the father, man. Those are the three things that really dominate my life these days, bro. But it feels good. It feels amazing.
So Curt, man, listen, man, take me back, man. Take me back to your journey from Seattle. What was it like growing up in Seattle, man?
Man, it's interesting because my mom is visiting with us right now. It was a very interesting place to grow up because we didn't have the density of population of Black folks, but my mom really created this community. We had some institutions and people that just made it a really great place to grow up, centered in the church, Mount Zion Baptist Church, which was pastored by an illustrious Morehouse man who's passed on, Dr. Samuel Barry McKinney, who's
Mm-hmm.
painted down in the chapel. And he was one of the initial kind of folks I started to look up to, and really his church was kind of a cornerstone of the community. And that's kind of where I grew up in that sense. Like a lot of my close friends and role models and mentors came from there. And that was really how I got introduced to Morehouse as like a 7 or 8 year old when the Glee Club came to Seattle and they were running and had the jackets and everything like that. And I was like, that's where I wanted to go. But then I went to Lakeside High School, which was a private high school that was the alma mater of some of the alma mater of Bill Gates and Paul Allen. That's where they kind of put their heads together to get Microsoft kind of going in their minds as high school students. So just following up in there and just being blessed to attend that school. And then that really teed it up to have probably the best experience of my entire life from an educational standpoint at Morehouse College.
Wow, man. Man, that's a dope story, man. Is Pastor McKinney still alive?
No, no, he passed a few years back, but lived an amazing life into his 90s. And his legacy, through a lot of us that he sent all of us down to Morehouse. And so a lot of us alums, like, we just try to live his legacy by being good, being good leaders, good fathers, good husbands. But he's had an indelible mark on me and so many other guys that came through from Seattle that went to Morehouse.
The Morehouse cats from our era, we like to say, are a little different. I'm not gonna get off into why it was different, but I would venture to say that you had some options coming out of high school besides Morehouse, did you not?
Yeah, and what was interesting, Taj, man, was that um, I had to kind of educate the folks at my high school that this was the place that I wanted to go.
Me too.
They
Me
weren't really
too.
they weren't really aware of HBCUs at that time. I mean, this was
Right,
94.
right.
And so, they were like, hey, you got all these options coming out of this school. You could go to Ivy and this and that. And I told my college counselor from the break, I said, your job is going to be real easy. I want to go to Morehouse. Help me get there. And they were like, well, what are
Mm-hmm.
your safe schools? I said, I don't have no backup plan.
Mm-hmm.
Morehouse, where I want to go. And so in the process, we were be able to educate them on like the tradition and like, because they were looking at things, they were looking at things on the surface sometimes. They were like,
Yeah,
oh,
no doubt.
how many computer labs do they have? 92.
Yeah, yeah.
How many? I'm coming from a school that had 3 or 4 labs, right? But they're like, how many computer labs they have? How many this and that, and where do they rank here? And I'm like, in my heart, in my soul, they rank number one, and that's where I want to go.
Okay,
And coming
okay.
back, yeah, and coming back there, that's then when they saw what happened afterwards and saw like then we started to have more folks come. More folks come from our school to go to Morehouse. So it became like a little pipeline. But when I went, it was kind of like some of the guys who went before me. It was kind of like uncharted territory.
Dang, man. I have to ask, man. I mean, Seattle is such an illustrious place for so many reasons. They say it's one of the most beautiful places in the Pacific Northwest. It's also the home of the legendary Quincy Jones,
Right.
is it not?
Jimi
And
Hendrix,
Jimi
all of it.
Hendrix,
Yep.
birthplace of grunge. You know
Yep.
what I'm saying? So I take it you like a little Nirvana. Do you like
I like
Nirvana?
a little bit of it. Yeah. You
Yeah, a little taste.
get a little all of it up there, man. At
Yeah.
that time frame, you got everything from like Mix a Lot to my guy.
Ooh,
Kid Sensation is one of my friends, Cola. But like you got all of it coming up there, man. You got a melting pot of that. And then you sprinkle in, obviously, like my mom having grown up in Louisiana, you know that we got gospel and jazz. So I had all of it around me, you know what I mean?
what part of Louisiana your mama from?
She's from a little town called Harnville, Louisiana,
Okay.
which is in St. Charles Parish, about 15 minutes. It's on the West Bank, like 15 minutes from the airport, about 35 minutes from the city. She currently lives there now too.
Oh, word.
So I got to spend so my childhood, the majority of time was in Seattle, but I did spend, some formative years living in Louisiana. So I got kind of both best of both worlds, you know?
Well, that's dope. And
Yep.
for those that don't know, not only are Kurt and I classmates, but we also lived in the same dorm freshman year.
We did.
Hubert Hall, Hugh
We did.
Rowe. You
We
know what I'm
did.
saying?
We did. What floor was you on, Taj? Was you on the second or third floor?
I lived on the third. You
That's
you
right, you
were you
did.
on
Yep.
you on the first, right?
I was on the first with like Aja and Rob and
Yes.
and and
Yes.
and the crew. And then of
Oh
course my roommate
man.
John Reed.
Yeah. 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 Boy, man, those brothers were tight, man.
That was my guy. We in a group chat to this day.
See, man, that's the beautiful thing about going to an HBCU, man. And honestly, man, when I interviewed George Crawford
Yeah.
recently and some other brothers. And, one of the things that we talked about, Kurt, man, was that, when I went off to med school,
Hmm.
I found that a lot of people that did not go to HBCUs, a lot of them had no interest in ever returning. You know what I'm saying? Because, after that first year, we were like, yo, we going to homecoming. Y'all, when y'all homecoming? They're like, going where?
Right. You're right.
No. And so we're blessed in that regard to this day. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? And
I mean, one of the things, Todd, just amazing, man. Like I think about it a lot. We're getting to that phase of life going on almost 30 years since we graduated. What's the most amazing thing for me is seeing the brothers like you and George and Kev and like all these guys and a lot of guys, Steve Reed and all these guys that we were connected to who are now entering into this phase of their career. Like you guys are in medicine, and we got people in politics, and we got people like leading movements. Like we got, guys that were a little bit ahead of us, like, Dr. Jamal Bryant and other guys. Like it's so interesting that our contemporaries are now entering that. And so what's really great for me personally was that it came full circle recently when like my godson transferred to Morehouse 2 years ago and he's graduating this year.
all
So
right
like
now.
able to see him get that experience and really like he was like, man, you're right, you're right. I was like, yeah, man, you got a lot of choices because he's an athlete as well. So you got a lot of choices, man. But I'm
Yeah.
telling don't worry about anything that happens on the field. Give your best, but you're gonna meet some brothers that are gonna be teammates in life for you, man. Where like, Taj, we don't have to talk for years, but when I see you, I pick up the phone or whatever, or I'm following you, like I'm sending you a message, you send me a message, like you see me doing something, I see you doing something. It's like it's this brotherhood bond that we all built while we're on campus where it just lasts, man. It lasts
Excuse me.
forever. And, I went to a PWI for grad school, and you're
Mm-hmm.
right. It just it was a different experience completely.
Mm-hmm.
It was registration went smoother. No, I'm just kidding. But
I know that's right. No, you ain't kidding about that. That's the truth.
you know,
That's the honest to God
you
truth.
got yeah, I got to campus. I got to George Washington for my master's. It was so funny. I was asking around. I was like, "So where do we go to register?" They're like, "Man, they got a kiosk over there, brother. They got a kiosk."
I know. I
What?
know.
Hey, man, it builds character. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So, what's the biggest thing that you took from your Morehouse experience, Kurt?
Man, I just think the biggest thing I took from it, and honestly, I don't think I realized it until I moved to DC after I graduated, was like, I'm part of something. I'm part of this brotherhood And that's an honor and a responsibility.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You feel honored because you're like, you realize when my kids read about Dr. King, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they read that he went to Morehouse and they look over to me, Dad, didn't you go to Morehouse? Yep.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But then you realize it's a responsibility too, like
It
when
is.
younger brothers come, and ask questions and things like that. I think I needed that immensely to prepare for the next phase of life.
Mm-hmm.
I'll tell you a funny story, man.
All right.
So when we came down from Seattle, it was my mom brought me down and also Ina Daniels.
Yeah, I remember Ina. Yeah.
We both grew up in Seattle. And so her parents was like, can they, sit her down with us? And so, we both grew up in Seattle and both had these aspirations to go to, she went to Spelman, obviously I went to Morehouse. And so we get down there. So she's staying with my mom in a room and I have my room, right? And so like all the brothers, man, about to go to Morehouse, you kind of picked your outfits out before you went down there. We had
Yeah.
iron, it was on the other bed. I'm laying in the bed and I'm like, I'm not gonna miss this. So
Mm-hmm.
I wake up, bro, and I'm like frantic. I wake up, I'm frantic, man. And I go knock on their door. I'm like, we're gonna be late, we're gonna be late. Man, it
Mm-hmm.
was like 4 a.m, bro. I just was so excited that I didn't want to miss going to campus that I had woken up in the middle of the night, man. Cause this is after I had arrived. And when I got from Seattle to Atlanta, I was like, oh my goodness, everybody looks like me, from the
Mm-hmm.
pilot of the plane to the general manager of the hotel to the people who drove us. It was like, but I was so excited, man, to get on campus that like I woke them up at like 4:30 in the morning. And I don't think I went back when they told me we're not leaving until 8:30, whatever. I don't think I went back to sleep, Taj, because I was like, I'm not gonna be late. Like I want to get to my dorm and get on campus and like live this thing.
Man, dude, and man, I echo that experience, man. It's such a nurturing, edifying experience all the way through.
Yeah.
So what you major in?
Majoring in English. Yep.
Okay,
English.
okay.
English. Yep. So we had a lot of folks majored in that and then they went various different ways from there. A lot of our guys, but yeah, English, man. Dr. Pickens and all those guys, man, like Dr.
You know
Ramin.
what?
Woo,
You
still
you
scared.
you're right, Kurt. You know I was in the English department too.
It was all me, you, Kev, all of us were sitting together with Dr. Pickens and Miss
Doctor.
yes, yes. Did you take any classes with Dr. Ramin?
Sure did.
Man, Ramin scared me, man. I'll never forget. To this day, I think I'm a little, but like, Rob, I came in there. I remember he said, "This class will be voluminous. You will be challenged." I was like, "You are right, sir. You are
Yes,
absolutely right."
he
But
was
yeah, man,
absolutely right.
those professors, they really cared about us, man. Especially Doctor, I rest his soul, Doctor Pickens. I just took
Yes,
a liking to him because he just be like, "Mr. Midkiff, now you got to get tighten up, man." I was like, "All right."
yeah,
Or they see you on campus. They're checking into your life, man. How are you doing? And so yeah, that was good. And then, of course, I think I took speech with Dr. Watts. I think.
yeah. And Watts, the
Yeah,
legendary. Yeah.
legendary. So they was just, man, so many great people, man. Even though it wasn't in our major, did you take any history classes with Dr. Kone?
No, I took history from. I didn't take Dr. Kone. I took.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, I didn't.
Yeah.
But I took Dr. What was his name? Goodness gracious, was it Dr. Bowman or
Oh yeah, 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 yeah. There was some legends
something
in that.
like that?
Yeah, there was some
Yeah,
legends in that.
yeah. It
Yeah,
was
yeah.
yeah, yeah. But I did take religion from Dr. Parker. Did you take
Okay.
religion from Dr. Parker?
I don't think I got a chance to. I forget who I took it with, but I remember Dr. Parker. Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely. I
yeah, no
remember.
doubt.
I think I heard him at least preach once or twice in King Chapel.
Yeah, yeah. You know he's pastor of a church around the corner from the crib,
That's
man.
right. That's what it was too. Yep. Yep.
Yeah, yeah. So Kurt, take us on your journey after Morehouse, bro.
Yeah. After Morehouse, I went to grad school at George Washington for political management, and at that
Okay.
time, I was on this track to be in politics, either as an elected official or a lobbyist. That was something that was really on my heart at that time. And then kind of had some, I always say my career has been in like, now it's 4 acts. There was like 3 acts. The first act was kind of formative. I worked at a political action committee that was starting up. And then I had my own company. with another Morehouse, a childhood friend and Morehouse alum, Eduardo Jackson. We were business partners for a few years, several
I
years.
remember Eduardo.
So we were partners,
Yeah.
did some cool stuff in publishing and nightlife and entertainment and a lot of stuff. And then around 2010, 2009, I met Melinda, who's my wife. And at that time, it was like the work that I was doing from like independent entrepreneur was like just wearing me out, man. I was tired. And we kind of had a conversation about, I saw her as somebody who's going to be in my life forever in that sense. And so we're like, what? So I kind of pivoted back into corporate. And that's when I did about 15 years in brand marketing and leadership, really from a social perspective, social
Mm-hmm.
media, brand strategy, worked at 6 brands for everything from, I worked at an HR association all the way to American Red Cross, and then was at Southwest Airlines for several years in a leadership capacity in social media, and then Kroger during the pandemic. That's another
Yeah.
story.
Yeah.
And then Wet Reels, and then most recently 23andMe. And just God showed some favor to me and, in some circumstances. And now that I'm stepping back into the entrepreneurship world as of a few months ago. And so now this company, SMOGO Media, is a company I founded 5 years ago right at the height of COVID, because I had some folks that I really worked with and rocked with for years that were in the live event space.
Okay.
And so, with COVID, all that was changing. So we started our own streaming company because I wanted to partner with those guys. I was still full-time employee somewhere, but I wanted to partner with those guys to build something. And it's been great, man. Over the past 5 years, we extended from being kind of a production house for others to like now we still do that. We do strategy. And around that same time, we launched our own streaming 24-hour television network as well.
Kurt, man, first of all, let me just tell you, bro, I'm proud of you. You know
Thank
what
you,
I'm
man.
saying? I mean that's so dope, man. And dude, I want to get into the weeds a little more, man. I want to get into the weeds.
Yeah.
Tell us, man. All right, man. So when you began to work in corporate, Kurt, with social media and stuff, what was your first gig and what was kind of your portfolio?
Yeah, man. It was so interesting because I wanted to make sure that when I went back into corporate, I still could do something that made me feel somewhat entrepreneurial. Social in 2010, think about it. Like the platforms were just coming along.
The
And so
beginning.
I'll give you like a little bit of a pre into that. The last thing I did as an entrepreneur before going into corporate kind of set me up for the corporate world. So one of the things that we did, I was living in DC. We were doing events and stuff like that through the company I had that I was a co-founder of. And we were doing all these like debate watch parties and all, because DC,
Yeah.
this is before it got to be, where it is now in terms of being so kind of divisive, but it was more of a sport then to
Yeah.
watch debates and stuff like that.
Yeah.
The discourse was more cordial. Long story short, inauguration night, Obama's inauguration night, his first one in 2000, we had done an event and then they announced that he won. And I got excited. We celebrated on U Street, had the block party. But I went down to the office we had at the time and it hit me. I was like, a lot of people are going to be coming to DC that never been here before, that need to know where to go and what to do. And I felt like
Mm-hmm.
we were good at that. So we started a Facebook group, just sending to some friends and stuff like that. And long story short, that grew to like 25 and 30,000. This was before Facebook groups was really a thing.
Word?
So we were in the it was crazy because like the Wall Street Journal would call, and like it was an article in the Wall Street Journal and Politico and CQ, Washington Post, because it became like, it was crazy because it became like the source of information. Like people was calling us like the city. I knew we had made it. The city of DC called to be like, can we post our emergency evacuation plans on your Facebook group?
Word?
Yeah, it was crazy. Like we was like Airbnb before Airbnb in that sense, because like people were listing their houses on our page. And
You were
so,
doing it big.
yeah, I kind of saw where social was going. You know what I mean? And so when I was applying for jobs to kind of like, because I wanted to move from agency to corporate, because I just wanted more, I guess, stability and kind of the corporate, 401ks and those kind of things, and just more time to spend, moving into another phase of life. So that's where I kind of sought out. And so my first gig was director of social media at the Society for Human Resource Management,
Okay.
social media leader for the organization that represented about 250,000 HR professionals. So at that particular time, my job was a couple things. For the organization, they brought me in because on social media, what was happening was they were being seen as an organization that was leaning into the fears about social media from an HR perspective, which the fears were, oh, all your employees were going to be spending all their time on Facebook and not being
Not
productive
being
and,
productive, yeah.
sharing special, different things and whatever the case may be. But the other side of it was becoming a place like it is now, like LinkedIn and stuff, to recruit. So there was this balance. And so, like, all these bloggers and stuff were saying to the organization, you guys are doing these sessions at your conferences where it's like 10 reasons why you shouldn't be on social media by this attorney, so you were scaring your people. So Sherm, to their credit, 15 years ago, said, we need a social media person to kind of come in and kind of manage our social properties, as well as kind of be a thought leader to help usher in this new way of thinking. And so that was an amazing, like, 4 years for me, because what I was able to do, I had an amazing boss. Her name was Amy Thompson. I had like amazing leadership, and so what I was able to do is kind of like test and learn, man. I was doing everything. So, like, for example, give you a fun example. We were really pushing at that time what was called work-life balance or work flex. This is before the days of working remote and all these different things we got now, but it was like a
Yeah,
big deal to work from home in 2010. And
yeah.
so I was like, yo, I always want to blend culture and commerce and community. So I was
Mm-hmm.
like, hey, Sherm, can I go to the Essence Fest and I'm going to cover it from a media perspective. And I'm going to ask these artists how they address these things. So, like, I asked
Mm-hmm.
Chill, New Edition, all these guys. And so, long story
Mm.
short, what we were able to do there, what I'm most proud of is I was able to work with that organization to help usher in a new way that people thought about social media. So,
Okay.
like, I did, I was on the road, I did probably at least 100 presentations to HR professionals about how to, like, make sense of social media. I was educating them on Glassdoor because I was just starting. And then the highest thing that we did, or the thing that was most proud of, was Sherm's biggest kind of moment of the year is their annual conference. And this annual conference is massive, man. It's like 15 to 20,000 HR professionals descend upon the city, and their speakers are like Al Gore, Hillary Clinton, Michael J.
Mm.
Fox, Richard Branson. The list goes on and on and on and on and on and on.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And so this was the biggest. So as a social media person, I'm like, okay, this is the best brand showcase. So let's leverage it as such. There was a fear there. Like, it was so fearful where, like, when they were doing the opening session with all these people, the first thing they would say, turn off your cell phones.
Mm-hmm.
The psyche there was, it would be terrible if all these cell phones went off in the middle of, like, this great speaker. But in
Yes.
my mind, I was like, we gotta. So what I was able to do was usher in this new era of social media at their conference by, I first invited like 5 bloggers and gave them carte blanche, everything like that. Then that grew. And then I was able to get it sponsored. Then it grew into doing events. So I started doing these tweet ups, and not your average like 20 people. Like, I'm talking about 300, 400, 500. And that's how I brought the culture to Sherm. Like, the biggest tweet up we did was actually 2013 in Chicago. We
Mm-hmm.
filled the House of Blues, 1,800 people, and
For
had DJ
real?
Jeff do a 90s theme event.
Love Jazzy Jeff. What?
My guy.
Come
So
on, man.
so then, to bring this home on that, we brought an event to the space. We brought more bloggers, and then we end up building a space within the conference that still exists today, where what I would do is, the bloggers, they want a free pass to go to the conference. The community of Sherm needed to learn about social media. So I would give the bloggers this great experience, but then they'd have to work a shift in what I call the hive, which was like this, 5,000 square foot mobile space we built that still exists today. They changed the names of it and stuff like that. And so the way that I knew we had achieved success was, every year after the first couple years, they started putting the hashtag and not tell people to turn their phones off. And as a result, every year from 2011 through 2013 and beyond, even after I left, they organically trended on Twitter. So, like, the
Mm.
first year we trended on Twitter, the other topics were, there was a journalist who passed away named Nora Ephron or something like that.
Yeah, I remember Nora Ephron. She wrote
Yeah,
When Harry Met Sally.
yeah, and then the musical, I mean, not the musical, the first Magic Mike. So it was like Nora Ephron, Magic Mike, and Sherm 12 as the organic trends. And so
Mm.
that was my first gig back in corporate leading social. And that's when I kind of knew, like, I knew that that was a lane I wanted to be in because I could do content, I could do community, I could do conversations, I could do events. And I still felt like kind of an entrepreneur because I never had large teams in the beginning. So I had to be scrappy and use everything I learned. So that was my first gig back in corporate.
Okay. Dude, that's so exciting, man. So, your current iteration of your passion is SMOGO Media, is that right?
Yeah.
Tell me all about it, bro.
Man, this is a vision. Like being able to step into this and do this full time is a vision that I had for years. And it just was accelerated, by circumstances, outside of my control at 23andMe. But I feel like, you know, we we sometimes feel like this is, blessings. Like one thing that I know about being like a person of faith and everything like that is like God is an amazing provider of gifts and opportunities, but he's not a gift wrap expert. Meaning meaning that a lot of times the blessings that he has for you are not they don't come at the time you're thinking, under the circumstances you're thinking, and kind of with the lead time or whatever you have. Like, I mean, as we record this today, Shedeur Sanders got drafted in the 5th round.
That's right.
That is not the time that none of us thought he'd be drafted, but we're gonna see that maybe God had a place for him that we didn't even know about. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So with me, SMOGO Media has always been something that I said, I want to transition into this, but I kept moving the goalposts. I was like, okay, every new job, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna do it when I turn 50. I said that 5 years ago. I literally said, I was starting a new job at Kroger and I was like, it was 2019. I was like, in 5 years, I'm gonna move this along. 20, yeah, and I was like, I'm gonna do this. And then I kept moving it because I kept getting new jobs. And then this just happens. What I'm excited about is now that I get to take all the experience I had over these 15 years and really leverage it in a way that I'm going to create something, an avenue, um, for diverse content creators to be able to get their content out and monetize it in different ways. Like what you don't even know yet is that People Street's going to be on Smogo TV very soon. I want you
Okay, now.
to
Okay, I claim that.
archive episodes and put them on there. But what we want to do is, like, one thing about Seattle that was great. We didn't have a lot of Black folks in Seattle, but we had a strong Black media outlets. Like
Okay.
one of them is currently led by one of our Morehouse brothers, Chris Bennett, who's like second generation leading this. They have a newspaper, radio station, and online, and we had like 2 or 3 papers and radio stations and stuff. But I always knew the power of our media, right? To be able to educate, inform, and so that's what we're doing from that perspective. So we're opening doors for individual content creators who are who like YouTube but like want something different to come over to us and be able to like control how they monetize the content. But like, when you're on YouTube, it's great to be discovered there, but like once your show blows up, they put any ad on top of it, right? You don't
Mm-hmm.
know what ad's going to run on top of your show, you know?
Yeah.
Whereas with us, you can control that. You can't really monetize your ads. And then some of these guys who are doing music and stuff like that can't do music because, the copyrights. We hold all the licenses for that. So what we want to do is be an avenue kind of in the tradition of the John H. Johnsons and the Susan Taylors and like the folks that have created these media outlets, the Roland Martins and others. So that's part one of it that I'm doing. So that's the part one of Smogo Media of creating an avenue. Then we're also doing a full service production company. So we've produced everything from sports to documentaries. We're in the process of working on a documentary that's in progress. We're filming around this amazing basketball player, Harmony Turner, who's going to
Okay.
the NBA, and we're following her story because she's going from Harvard to the WNBA. So it's like an amazing.
Okay.
And then the third and fourth parts for me, I want to connect brands to opportunities. So I want to be this matchmaker for brands, connecting brands to the culture. And then me personally, the Brand DJ Diaries, that's my own content series that's going to be coming out. That's really going to like talk about marketing in a different way and kind of like riff on the fact that people call me the brand DJ for how I approach marketing. So I'm really excited about it, man. Like I'm going back to the roots of everything, man. And I'm just excited to see what can happen when I give this full attention.
Yeah, yeah, no doubt. So, Kurt, first off, man, this is such a dope concept, man, that you got going on, man. I really love it, man. Shout out to Harmony Turner. Shout out Harmony. Do your thing, girl. That,
Yeah,
that that's number one.
I mean, it's that her story is so amazing, and when we get a chance to work with her team and tell it, I'm trying to tell you, it's going to be no matter how it comes out. It may be a web series, it may be a short film. We don't even know. We just been rolling the cameras, and every time we roll the cameras, something amazing happens. So we're just capturing, man. We're just capturing.
Where'd you get the name SMOGO Media?
We were founded during COVID, and so it's SMOGO short for the show must go online.
Okay.
It was like when everything closed down, the show went online, and so we kind of kept it, kind of breezes together. SMOGO Media. Yeah,
Okay. In addition to documentaries, you say you cover sports. Can you tell us, some of the other stuff that you've done already, and where can we see it?
yeah. So I'll go with the where you can see it first. We're on pretty much every streaming television. So if you have a Roku TV, Apple TV, you just can go search us, SMOGO TV, and we'll come up there. We're free. You don't have to subscribe and all that for now. But
Uh,
no, we're gonna stay free. We're gonna stay free. I think a couple things we're most proud of. Our team actually sold a TV show to HBCU Go Network, which is a network that is currently owned by Byron Allen's entertainment group.
mm-hmm.
Sold a show called The Color of STEM. And
Okay.
what it was my partners had been working on this for years, and then we kind of brought it over to Smogo. And what we did was we featured some amazing stories of Black folks, HBCU graduates working in STEM. So we had people working in the metaverse, all kind of things, and so that was a highlight. And then one of our long-term clients has been the 400 Years of African American Heritage Commission. And that was a commission, ironically, that launched during the first Trump administration, which is very strange, but it was
Ironic.
launched to basically celebrate or raise awareness of the history of our people in this country from 1619 to 2019. And then it
Mm-hmm.
kept getting extended. So we became a production partner. And if you go to Smogo right now, a lot of the you'll see a lot of that programming we developed with them, where we were able to develop original programming around things like all black towns, like some of the small all black towns that historically.
Mm-hmm.
We have one up there now that talks about a three-part series on health called The Majority Minority, that kind of talks about some of the health conditions that disproportionately impact our people. So it's been exciting, man, to be able to do that, and then also be able to do some of the fun stuff there that you see on the page. So like giving some DJs some opportunities, and then being able to actually have a full-on. We have a HBCU homecoming channel on our network. That's kind of
For real?
it's different things, man. It's different things we've done. Whether it was remember when our homecoming was virtual in
Yeah.
2020? So there's like some of the highlights from that, and then there's like we partnered with Rock T from the Ricky Smiley Morning Show to
Yeah.
broadcast his event called Stomp Wars. So there's some stepping on there. There's some band stuff on there, and
Yeah.
so what's exciting with us now is like we're going to be more strategic in how we deliver it to you, because there's areas that we haven't been able to get into that we're going to delve more. Like, I want this to be a platform for faith-based organizations and churches to be like, they want to be on TV, but we don't want expense to be a impediment to that. So I want to start offering a platform there. Wellness and wealth. So we have like a show on there that was produced by a colleague of mine, and we've been airing it, called Building Black Wealth. So we just want to kind of be this place you can come, and that's driven, again, at its heart, driven by creators like you, Taj, where like you have this authentic show, People Street, I've watched, where you've talked to some really dynamic people, and but
Thank
you
you,
do
man.
it in a way that's so personalized because you know them, and they respect you and know you. It's like we want to just get at a bigger platform. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. Hey, man, bless you for doing that, man. Honestly, Kurt, I'm from the church too, like yourself, and we're purpose driven and mission based, man. And one of the reasons that I wanted to have this show, and even the earlier iteration that I had, Taj and Friends, was I want to be able to bring the Curt Midkiffs and the Kevin Johnsons to people that don't know them, man. To provide some inspiration, man, because there's some young people out there and people that are looking for their third act too. They might want to start a production company, you know what I'm saying? Or, and can find value in that, man. And so, I really want to make sure that I get into the weeds, man. So for somebody that's just sitting at the crib that happens to see this interview, man, And maybe they've been bandying about the idea of starting a production company.
Yeah,
How do they do it, Curt? If you had to give some advice to
yeah,
somebody that wants to start a production company, where do you start?
yeah. I think that first you pick a direction or directions you want to focus on. So for us, you know, we want to be a full service like media entity. So we want to produce and distribute the content ultimately. But I feel like there's also so many avenues on either side of it, because being a production company now, you could be an aggregator of content where you could be like, let me go find some really dope content creators and let me create the platform by which they're distributed. So that's like what our TV network is. Or we have clients that want us to help tell stories. And so I think that the beauty of doing things now is that the technology is so much more attainable. Like what we're talking on right now with like Riverside, you know what I mean? Like
Hmm.
it makes it so much more attainable from a standpoint of I don't have a production tech background, so I'm glad I have two business partners who do. But the new tools have made it possible for me to take, you know, a long form interview like this and drop it into like an Opus clip or something like that and get 30 clips that we can put out
Hmm.
there. I think
Hmm.
the first thing is finding a lane and determining if you want to be in front of the camera or behind the camera, or if you want to do both. And then kind of determining where you want your content to go. And then finding a couple people that share the vision, that can rock with you and kind of like help build it out. I think that's the biggest. And the other thing too that we learned is, you know, think about it, but don't don't wait to try it until you have it perfect.
Hmm. Like Booker T. Washington says, cast down your buckets where you are,
Exactly.
in
Exactly.
essence, right?
You can spend all this time, it's funny, man, because and I got to tell myself this because like with this brand DJ Diaries, which is my content series that I'm going to air on our network, man, I was beating myself up for years because I was like, oh, I got to have it perfect and it got to be 22 minutes of great programming. And even when I had more time, when I now have more time, I was like, man, let me wait till the episodes. I got like 10 episodes. Somebody told me, man, like, you got to just try it. So I just said, with that, I said, let me create these snackable versions of it just to see what resonates.
Yes.
So like, I showed when I stayed at an Airbnb that had pickleball. People really liked that. They really gravitated towards that. Or when I talked to some people working behind the scenes at some big other podcasts. So it's like just jump out there, man. Like, like what I like about what you've done, Taj, is like I've seen your content continue to keep the same authenticity, but just evolve in where you share it. You went from IG Live to now you're on YouTube and other platforms, and you share short versions of it, longer versions of it. You got different walks of life because you just jumped out there and was like, you got a vision for you want to have authentic conversations.
Yeah, for
Like,
sure.
let me try Instagram first. Let me try this. Let me try this. Let me try that. And I think that that's the advice I would give for those wanting to get into the content creation production space. Like, there's so much need for authentic storytelling. I mean, I'm inspired by a lot of guys. Like, I'm inspired by I'm inspired by younger guys. Like, I'm inspired by Deion Sanders Jr. Like
Hmm.
those guys.
He
I
does
spent
beautiful content. Beautiful
I
content.
spent
Where
some
you
time.
at, Deion Sanders Jr.?
Yeah, I spent shout out to Bucky, man. Like I spent I got a chance to spend a little bit of time with them when I was in Texas. And what I remember is we all went to the Super Bowl. They had to do Super Bowl because prime time, his 30 for 30 was coming out around the same time the Super Bowl was in Atlanta. And so Junior and the crew was like cool enough to let me roll with them when they did media day. And
Well, that's dope.
we worked on like a live stream afterwards. And I saw even in that moment, he was walking in the space of the media space of like capturing and then to see them what he's done since then. Like I'm inspired by like when we were doing the Harmony thing, I'm inspired by him. Like, man, you're producing something every day
Yeah. Yeah.
to the widest audience to where ESPN pulls your content and airs it. No,
Yes.
shout out to them, man, because I think that, I think he is getting the flowers that he deserves now,
Hmm.
but I mean, he's been putting in work. And so like, that's somebody that I would tell young people to look towards because that wasn't his primary vocation. His primary vocation was like business and entrepreneurship.
Mm-hmm.
And he picked up a camera and learned it and was self-taught and edits and all that. So those guys inspire me. Like when I'm like, man, I can't put out the content all the time. And then I see these guys like 6 hours after a game have a full movie out.
For sure. I love his content, dog. When they went to Colorado,
Yeah.
and even at Jackson State,
Yeah.
dude, just beautiful. I love it, man. It's so authentic.
Yeah.
And like you said, it's quick turnaround. You
Return.
know what I'm saying? And so you're right there experiencing it, even though you may not be able to get on a plane and go to Boulder
Yeah.
or go to
You
Jackson.
right
You know what
there,
I'm
man.
saying? You're right there
Sometimes I
on the
watch
field, man.
I watch that like win or lose. Because usually if a team I like loses, I don't watch anything around it. But
Hmm.
even when they have lost, I want to see what story he's gonna tell. Because
Hmm.
he's gonna sugarcoat it, but it's shout out to him, for
Shout out Deion Sanders Jr.
yeah, shout him out because I think that I've texted him this before that in the future when they look at content and sports marketing and what changed, he's gonna be in those marketing classes. They're gonna be talking about this was the turning point when they put the cameras on Jackson State and when they brought it to Colorado. This was the turning point because you see all these other universities adopting it and trying
Yeah.
to duplicate it and trying to do, but shout out to him and his whole crew, Kanan and Darius and the other guys that are just in that genre. Like I'm inspired as an older cat by those cats.
Yeah, yeah. All right, shout out Kanan and Darius. And I tell you another thing, Kurt, because we got to keep it a buck. How they treated Shedeur was some bull jive, man.
Yeah.
It was straight bull jive. Hey, man, what's your perspective on that, man? Like, you think there was some collusion?
Well, here's my perspective. Here's my perspective. I specialize in brand strategy.
Gotcha.
And one of the things that happens is when a person's brand is ahead and different than what you are used to, one of two things happens. You either embrace it or you try to stifle it.
Mm.
So what we've seen over the years with Shedeur and the family, their brand is authentic, their brand is unapologetic, their brand is brash but not arrogant, and their brand is distinctively Sanders.
Yeah, it is.
And so what's happened, who embraces it? Other recruits embrace it.
Mm-hmm.
Other brands embrace it. That's why he was one of the top NIL guys. But the NFL is not used to that. And so because the NFL is an entity that is one of the few entities that can control your elevation professionally,
Right.
then they can come together to be like, we're not sure if that's right for our brand. So
Mm-hmm.
let's leverage the tools that we have to make it more difficult for this person. Because everything it was so interesting, like watching what happens because they kept moving the goalposts every day.
Mm-hmm.
They were like, well, he doesn't have any off the field issues because he doesn't.
Right.
And I think that the NFL embraces the culture when it's like the NFL can have Kendrick Lamar perform at halftime,
Mm-hmm.
but they're nervous about a brand that doesn't need the NFL brand, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah.
Because to be popular or to be effective, Shedeur Sanders represents a rare case of athlete that doesn't need the NFL's brand to boost him up.
Right.
He's just NFL teams because it's the sole league that's out there.
Mm-hmm.
You know
Mm-hmm.
what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's kind of like similarly to WNBA and women's basketball players. Like these women in college are building these like multifaceted brands because all before, and I won't linger on this too long, but all before what would happen in a traditional NFL is like you come to the NFL and they suggest the image you have, and then quarterbacks get marketed to what they used to call Madison Avenue, right?
Yeah.
So so you needed to be a professional ball player to get endorsements. So you needed to get that. So yeah, you would have to like, toe the line and kind of be there and go to all the combines and be like, yeah, I'll answer 56 questions. I'll answer these. Some of these questions are very negative. Some of these questions are, it's been proven that some of these questions are, I think at one point it wasn't a combine or anything, but I think they asked Doug Williams in Super Bowl, how long have you been a black quarterback?
Right. Yeah.
Like, so in this new era with NIL and everything like that, you're already a brand before you play in the NFL.
Yeah.
So you don't need the NFL's brand. You don't need the NFL to brand you. You have your own brand. And so I think that's a culture shock for a lot of the people, because if you have a player who has the background that he has, the resources that he's earned, he's going to make some different decisions.
Mm-hmm.
So you're worried about the fact of he represents the athlete that can come in and be empowered
Right.
and
Right.
say, you're not making or breaking my, it's not that I need you to draft me so I can build a house for my mama. No, I just need you to draft me so I can play in your league. Because for now, that's the rules.
Mm-hmm.
But there may be guys in the future that are like, yo, don't draft me then. Let me be a free agent so I can pick where I go.
Yeah.
So I think that what we saw today was just like the NFL, not, I'm not blaming the NFL. I'm just saying that it's the case of embracing change. Just like we talked about a few minutes ago, where like when I used to help brands embrace the fact that social media was going to change the way that like you can't spend 2 years crafting a message to get to your consumer. No, you got to get a message out there that may not be perfect, may not be polished, but gets out there. So it's like they're getting used to it. And I think that the same way that in different genres, in different kind of lanes, the same way that Kaepernick ushered in kind of a new realm of social justice in athleticism
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and had to sacrifice a lot in that
Yeah.
regard.
Yeah.
Shedeur's draft placement was a sacrifice for somebody coming in and saying, like, I'm a brand. I represent the new era of athlete that's going to enter the NFL draft with millions of followers, who's actually going to help your brand, by the way.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. No doubt.
Eventually, teams will get used to it. When they see how great he's going to play, they're going to be like, you know what? He's a kid that's connected to the culture. He's not
Mm-hmm.
a nuisance. He's not a problem. He's
Mm-mm.
just a kid that is reflective of the good parts of today's culture. And the average 23-year-old kid who was, is going to enjoy certain music, is going to enjoy sharing on social media, going to have a podcast, going to be different than maybe Peyton Manning was.
Yeah, yeah. And he's excellent. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying? I mean, excellence, offensive player of the year in the Big Ten.
yeah,
Had a, some achieved despite, a porous offensive line that first year.
exactly.
Uh, can put the ball on a dime and is a great kid, not in trouble. You know what I'm saying? Shedeur, us uncles out here, unks,
Yeah,
the OGs, we support you, man.
all
And
day.
keep your head up. You Like you were saying, Curt, those of us that have faith know that sometimes there's a blessing behind some circumstances which are that you think are less than optimal. Man, let me tell you a story, man. When I was in med school, uh, I went to Medical College of Pennsylvania, which is now Drexel School of Medicine. Just kind of, just at that particular time, like our sophomore year, our med school had some financial challenges or something and brought in a CEO, and the CEO wasn't the best one. And I remember sitting in gross anatomy with this Chinese girl named Yin Ni. Yin Ni was brilliant, man. I mean, she was number one in the class, not 1%, number one. And Yin was from China. Like she went to Wellesley and learned English when she came over here, man. But we were sitting there talking about these circumstances, and everybody was worried about what was going to happen to the med school. And she told me a story that I never forgot, man. And she was like, And I was like, what we gonna do, if it becomes insolvent or whatever the case may be. So she told me an old Chinese story, man. She said that there was a young man from a village, uh, you know, and that particular village went to war with
Okay.
another village.
Okay.
Um, and he had been riding his horse, fell off the horse, and ended up being incapacitated.
Okay.
And all of the young men went off to war, and he was sad because he couldn't go. He wanted to go fight for his village.
Mm-hmm.
But all the young men ended up dying. And he didn't because he was behind. He was left behind. And, his village event, a lot of them ended up dying, and his village ended up triumphing. But because he had that thing happen to him, it saved his life. And she said, Taj, she was like, what seems bad to you now may be good for you later. You know what I mean? And
So,
it's the same with Shedeur. And I was
yeah.
telling my son about this.
Yeah.
His paper, you know, was affected, but again, he's already making paper.
Right.
And I was explaining to my son, the sorry teams are the ones that are picking first.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And God has a way of working things out, man. And he has the foundation and the skill and the will. You know what I'm saying?
Well, watch
So,
this. Watch what's going to happen in the next 2 weeks. What you're going to see is a report of the rookie jersey sales. The number one jersey sale is going to be 1 and 2 is going to be some version of Travis
hmm
and Shedeur.
yes,
Like
yes,
it's going to be, that's going to be because I saw so many people saying I'm going to go buy his. I'm going to go buy one. Like I don't like
yeah,
to,
me too.
but I'm going to go buy one. And when they come play here in Chicago, I'm going to get a ticket and go see them, even if he's not starter, because it's just he's a good like. It's so interesting, man. Like it's so interesting how subjective things can be, where
Mm,
it's like the most egregious thing to these people is that he played for his dad. So we talk about all these different, he's not going to be that ESPN story where it's like, well, nobody cared. No, he had a father that cared enough to coach him all the way through. And it
Why is
helped
that not celebrated?
Yeah, they helped each other. And it's like
Yeah.
the most egregious thing. His father's a Hall of Famer who, like, your whole thing in life is like a lot of times as a young person, it's like you look up to your father. And ultimately, we have another father that we look to that tells us to be confident and lifts our heads up. You know what I mean? The
hmm
most egregious thing this man did was say the word legendary. The most
Right.
egregious thing this man did was show his watch when he scores a touchdown.
hmm
And we got all these things where cats come into the league where they got rap sheets longer than their sheets longer than their stat sheets. And it's like the most egregious thing this dude did was walk with confidence and boldness.
hmm
He never and 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 play with passion.
hmm
It is all.
hmm
I just was confused, but I'm like, to your point, I just believe that there's a blessing for them because every time they've kind of wrote this family out, you know, whether it was when he came to Jackson, oh, it's never gonna then they left, they did their thing in Jackson. Oh, they didn't win the celebration. Okay, whatever. He went to Colorado. Everybody was hyped, and that first year was tough. And oh, they wrote him off then. Then they had a good year last year and they lost the bowl game, wrote them off then. It's like they always, so I think there's just something there, man, that like I'm excited to see what's going to happen. But it shows us, I think one of the things we did learn at Morehouse was that, we were told to expect that sometimes we got to be twice as good.
hmm
We were
hmm
that we got to set an example. We got to be told that we're going to be held to different standards. We were told, and I think we all learn from that, man. Like we all and those are the things that I think his family imparted. And the good thing is he got some good Morehouse guys around him too. He got Pastor Dewey is one of his ministers. So I think
Okay.
he got the right people around him, man. He's going it's gonna be a blessing, man. We're gonna be looking back on this in a year and be like, man, what an amazing season his brother had.
Absolutely. So, Kurt, man, listen, man, there are a lot of people out here, man, that are creating content, that are making shows. What if somebody wants to? How does somebody pitch to you an idea, man?
Yeah, I mean it's easy, man. Just email me at Midkiff at SMOGOmedia.com. And the big thing I'm looking for is I'm not looking at audience size and engagement and all that. I'm just looking for authenticity, authentic content. Because what we're working on is bridging that content to the community that will appreciate it. I like that. I like that. It's like that artist that, Taj, I know you love music as much as I do. And it's like
Mm-hmm.
you first hear that artist in that like small city winery spot and they got it.
Yeah.
You don't need to know like, have they performed at the Georgia Dome before? No. Their voice is authentic. It's like the first time I heard my boy Anthony David back in 2005.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
First time I heard him was a little small spot in DC. And I was like, nah, man,
What was
that
the
dude,
name of the spot, Curt?
Gin, right there it was Jin.
Okay, gotcha.
It was right by Busboys and Poets on 14th and U Street.
Okay.
The little spot, man, black owned spot. And it was like a Friday night. He was doing an acoustic set. And his manager, Richard Dunn, who's a music legend himself in Atlanta, was like, check him out. Cause we were doing some things. And that leads me to another story that's 20 years old now, about stages and times. So right after I met Anthony, we did the show with him and everything like that. Then we did like a listening party for the Jill Scott Golden album. We did a
Mm.
listening party, but she wasn't there or anything. Like just a listening party. So the person I was working with at that time, we were like, we wanted to stay in a lane of doing shows that was like that. So we heard this cat named John Stevens. This cat named John Stevens, right? And so Morehouse story, man. Our Morehouse brother Anthony Demby
Yeah, I remember. I
was
remember Debbie. Yeah.
Demby was the manager for this brother named John Stevens.
Okay.
So I reached out to Demby to be like, hey man, I'm doing this. He's like, Kurt, he set me up with the deal, whatever the case may be. And heard the voice, has seen the brother do background. I'm giving it away, but seen the brother do background for Kanye and others. But he was a background dude named John Stevens.
Mm-hmm.
Eventually, John Stevens became John Legend. And
Mm-hmm.
so I was the first promoter to bring John Legend to DC after the release of his first album. So
Wow, that's dope, man.
it's like when I look at this career, it's full circle in the sense of I'm looking for that. I'm looking for the person who has like the authentic, where when I first went and saw him perform, like just to check him out live, it was at UPenn and he was playing on the piano that was out of tune, but you
Mm-hmm.
saw right there that he had it. And so I think that there's people out there that are creating content, whether it's music, whether it's podcasts, whether it's videos, and all they need is somebody to just be like, I see it, I feel
Mm-hmm.
it.
Put a spotlight on him.
Let me shout out one other cat that I think y'all should check out. I'm not working
All
with him,
right.
but I think y'all should check it out because it represents the type of there's a brother named, I think his name is Brian Freeman. He had it called Cadillac Chronicles. What's dope about it, he was his backstory, I think he was an artist as well, but he has created a platform. He drives around in this old school caddy top down
Mm-hmm.
and has artists perform while he's driving.
Oh,
And
word.
he's had Case on there. I think he had Young Dro, Anthony David. Like, go to Cadillac. That's the type of content that inspires me. That's out there. Where I'm like, man, if there's a way
That's
that
authentic.
cats like that can get a bigger platform, and through that platform, if they can then connect with brands, like that's kind of where the secret sauce is.
Yeah, man, that's dope, man. So he's on your platform,
He's not on my platform, but he's not on my platform. I hope to get
but
him on
it's
my
a type.
platform, but it
That,
but
that
it
that's the
represents
type of
the type of
content.
content that's out there. If you want an example of some authentic content, go to his Instagram. I think it's Cadillac Chronicles TV or Cadillac Chronicles. That's the type of raw, like authentic content where it's like it's a vibe. It's not just cool because some people sitting in the car. It's like he knows music. He's from the music industry. He knows all these different people. He's putting all these people on. And in the process, he's building a following that's like crazy. Cause I saw it in my feed at first. Like it came through my feed because it was like him and Case. And Case is one of my favorite kind of R&B artists. And he did it. And then my boy Anthony David did his episode came out. And I was like, yo, man, this is dope, man. What is he
Yeah.
like? So that's the type of content that's out there, man. Like if you're looking for an example as a content creator of like how to take an idea that you have and make it, he's a great example because it's so real. Like it feels so real, and and the quality of the sound is amazing. Like for real.
I love that, Curt. Curt, advice you would give to your younger self.
You know, take your time. You know, just like I think, especially in the Morehouse years, I think I just really wish maybe I would just step back and just plugged in more to some things.
Hmm.
You know, we spend so much time trying to get to the next thing, man. You know, it's like when you're in high school, you're trying to get to college. When you're in college, you're trying to get to grad school. When you're in grad school, you're trying to get to be on your own. Then you rush, 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 rush. I think just taking time to live in the moment and maximize the moment is the biggest piece of advice I give to like my younger self.
Curt, man, listen, man, it's been nothing but a pleasure hollering at you, man. I've been edified, man. You doing the thing, bro, and but you are from that beacon on the red clay hill in Georgia, the 830 Westview Drive Southwest. My man, Curt, dog. Hey, man, good talking to you, man. Thank you, Curtis Mick, SMOGO Media. Download SMOGO Media
Yes,
on
Smogo
all your stream.
Smogo
SMOGO
TV
TV.
available. Just search it on your TV. Go to it. SMOGO space TV. You can download it. It's free. Roku, Amazon Fire, Apple TV. We have a mobile app in the Apple Store. Yeah, man. Download it.
The Curt, download it. The Curt Midkiff, y'all. Peace.
Yeah, thanks.
Star.